Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Srila Guruji Maharaj ki jai, Smasta Rupanuga Gauriya Guru Varga ki jai, Saparshad Gaur Hari ki jai, Sri Gaur Nityananda Prabhu ki jai, Sri Sri Radha Ramanju ki jai, Sri Sri Radha Vinod Bihari Ju ki jai, Jai Jai Shri Radhe Shyam. Hare Krishna. Okay, so I have a tendency to become long-winded, but I can also try to be succinct, and let's see how it goes. All right. Beloved Gurudev, Sri Srimad Srila Bhaktivedanta, Narayan Goswami Maharaj, I offer him my sastang pranam, prostrated obeisance. When he was a boy, he was a devotee of Lord Ram. His family, they were great devotees of Lord Ram. But in childhood, he would have dreams of Ram. Often, Ram, Sita would come in his dreams. He was so absorbed in them, hearing their glories. And one time, when he was a young boy, Ram and Lakshman came in a dream. And then, all of a sudden, they appeared in a different form as Gaura Nitai. And they said, in this age, we are Gaura Nitai. And you should come to us and be with us in Navadvip, the appearance place of Gauranga. And he had never heard their name. Who is this Gauranga? Who is this Nitai? In this incarnation, Krishna says, Sarvasya chaham hridi sannivisto matasmritir jnanam apohanam cha. God is, by God's mercy, we have knowledge, remembrance, and forgetfulness. So he said, where did I hear this name? He hadn't heard the name in this life, but yet it was like there was a memory. Some philosophers say everything comes from, all knowledge you learn in life comes from almost like a memory. Plato and so forth. So it struck a chord in his heart, and shortly after that, a wandering pilgrim visited his town. He was a Bihari Brahmin from a very high-class Brahmin family, and this wandering pilgrim left a book at his home. And it was a book describing, in Hindi, the glories of Lord Chaitanya. And he started to read this. And in due course, he had a very high position in his occupation as a police officer, but he left everything behind and he ran away from home. Generally, you hear children run away from home once in a while they rebel for a bit. But he ran away from home as an adult after having family. And he went and took shelter of his Srila Gurudev, Srila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj. And when he got his initiation, it was on this day of Goura Purnima. So he got his Diksha Gayatri mantras, and then they did a kirtan together. And at that time, it was a beautiful courtyard, not a large temple, many palm trees and mango trees. And everyone was dancing in the courtyard in the moonlight. I think this is a song probably. So everyone was dancing, and in that dance, in the moonlight of Gauranga, right? I don't know it, so I'm not going to attempt it, but I have a memory of it. Okay. So, his Gurudev was dancing, and hundreds of the pilgrims who come for the festival of his appearance were dancing. And then he saw another vision. At this time, it wasn't in his sleep, because normally you get these in dreams, very deep, mystical dreams. But sometimes, in very powerful moments, the veil thins, and you can see the vision even in a waking state. And then you come into a half-waking, half-internal state. And he could see Gauranga, Nityananda, Gadadhar, Srivas all dancing in that courtyard. And he began to weep in ecstasy, and he fell on the ground unconscious. And his Gurudev was smiling. So like, success. And he brought him to a room and let him rest. So to his lotus feet we offer our pranam. I was thinking as our Gokul Prabhu was speaking, the first 2-3 sentences you said was the exact thing I wanted to speak about. So there's some synergy, you could say. And it's the name and love. In Sanskrit we say Nam Prem. Nam is the name and Prem is love. And our gurus would say that the most beautiful universal word is love. And the most beautiful personal word is the name of your beloved. Because everyone will have a different beloved. So the most beautiful universal word is love. But the most beautiful personal specific word is the name of your beloved, whom you have love for. And Lord Chaitanya, he came to give love for the name of the Supreme Beloved, or God. And I'll come back to this point, but I want to give a hook for us to meditate on, for us to chew on, for us to drink. And it's a song by a very beautiful poet from like 1,000 years ago. And he would sing especially about the love of Radha for Krishna. So he writes a song, and in the mood of Radha, the poet writes, Keva sunailo shamanam, which means in Sanskrit, "O my friend, O Saki, Keva sunailo," I only like to hear that name of my beloved, Sham. Sham is the name for Krishna, who is very beautiful. So then she says, where is that person who first told me the name of my beloved? And it's destroyed my life. It's completely taken over my life. Where did I first hear that name? That's her question. I'm relating it back to Gurudev. In a dream, Lord Ram came and said, "No, I am Goura. From your childhood, your parents are Ram Bhaktas. But I also have love for you, and I also want you to realize me as Goura. And so come to me." So Radharani is saying, where did I first hear that name, Sham, that has taken over my life? And then she says, I don't know how much sweetness is in this name. Tasting it, I've become enmaddened, completely intoxicated. I've lost all my composure. Oh friend, Keva Sunailo Shamanam, that name of Sham. So now coming back to what we were speaking about last night. In our philosophy, in our tradition, the basis of reality, the ontological source of reality is God, but that God is not impersonal. It is supremely personal, and it cannot exist separately from love. And so we say that at the very center of reality, the most powerful force is love. And within the center of that love, the most concentrated form of love is God. Of all the forms of God, the epitome of pure love is Krishna. And within the heart of Krishna, at the very center of the heart of Krishna is Radha. So what is the source of reality? What is at the deepest essence? Our Guru would always speak about this often, my Shiksha Guru especially. Vishnu, or the name of God, means all-pervading. That which is all-pervading is Vishnu. That's what it means. And Krishna is all-attractive. But he would say, if God is all-pervading, what is in God's heart? And so if the center of existence is love, and the center of that love is God, and the center of that God is his beloved, the goddess, Sri Radha, then if he is all-pervading, but she is in his heart and soul and mind, who is more all-pervading? She is the most all-pervading. So our Gurudev's name is Srila Narayan, and Srila Narayan Goswami Maharaj, one of the meanings of Narayan is the resting place of all souls, which is a name for God. But our Gurudev, his disciples would say, Narayan can refer to the masculine Godhead or the feminine Godhead. And in our tradition, we aspire to be in the shelter, the resting place for all souls is her shelter. And this is something special about the Vaishnava tradition in the line of Lord Chaitanya. Not everyone, but many or most, or the prominent thread of our tradition is the aspiration to see God through her perspective and serve God through her perspective, and actually, ultimately, to serve her, and then we relish the service to her and their moods.
We want Krishna praying, not Krishna.
Our Gurudev would say, we are actually not seeking God. We are seeking love of God. And if we do not take shelter of the form of love of God, which is Radha, then how can we receive that? And so in the Gayatri Mantra for Sri Radha, she is described to be the form of divine love. That's the description. Each devata, each ishtadev, which means the worshipful deity, has a Gayatri Mantra. And in the middle, they will describe the most essential principle about that personality. And so for Radha, she is described in the most essential characteristic is that she is the form of divine love. Prema Rupaya. We meditate upon she, who is the form of divine love. So now, with that understanding, then you can consider chanting the name of God. Is that a ritual for the devotee, or something that you're almost impelled to do when you become intoxicated with the name of your beloved? We're on the level of the conditioned soul, and so that love may not be apparent. But this is her mood. She is saying, where did I first hear that name, Sham, that has completely taken over my life? And that I cannot stop chanting his name. Sham, Sham. This is the crux of the Bhakti tradition, the Bhakti movement. The devotees' love for their form of God. Hanuman. What is Hanuman incessantly doing? He's chanting, Ram, Ram, Ram. One of our great devotees in our line, he was attacked for chanting the names of God, Krishna, because he was born in a Muslim family. And the rulers of Islam, they will kill you for converting. Like I also travel to the Middle East, and you're allowed to, speak in a very humble, simple way with those of the Hindu faith. But you cannot speak about this with those of the Islamic culture. And if you convert someone, they can get the death penalty. This is very common. Apostasy. This is like the only thing you're not allowed to do. It's seen as a great sin. So our Haridas was a great saint, and he was born in a Muslim family, but he became addicted to the name of Krishna. This is the power of pure love. He could not stop. Lord Chaitanya was like that. He could not stop. He was chanting Krishna, Krishna. So Haridas, they tried to kill him. They said, look, worship our God. Don't worship the Hindu God. And he would say, God is one. You can call him Allah. I call him Krishna. What's the difference? Allah means the greatest. Krishna means the most beautiful, the most attractive. That is how I am connected to him. They threatened him and said, unless you stop, we'll kill you. He said, no problem. He said, you can cut my body into 1,000 pieces, but I will not give up the name of my beloved. And they tried to kill him. There's a beautiful history around it. So, in our philosophy, the basis of reality, we spoke about this last night. There is God and there is love. And we're talking about this. I was talking about how great it is that the Bhakti tradition has come to the West, and it's very beautiful, and Bhakti is very free in the West, and so she can express herself. Bhakti means the goddess of devotion. And in India and culture, there is a lot of rigidity around the customs and the tradition, and so sometimes the movement of Bhakti people have tried to hold it back. That only makes it stronger. And then when now she's come to the West, no one will be able to control the development and flow of Bhakti. Bhakti means essential devotion and love to God. In Hinduism, in Sanatana Dharma, it's the most liberating, freeing, empowering tradition of, we say the essence of all religion is love to God. And in our faith, it's something that is completely free. No one can control it. People try to control it, it just becomes more powerful. So we say that there is love, lover and beloved at the basis of reality, at the very center of existence. And the best mantra to awaken that, we say the different names, but mantra is something you chant privately, internally. We were talking about this last night, so I'm just going to recap because we don't have much time. So you have a mantra you will chant out loud, like you can chant the name of God that you have devotion to. But when you're doing any worship or meditation, you also have a mantra that you chant. And I was saying how when we're doing any worship activity, we should chant this mantra to God, like, I love you. And understand that that's the basis of our philosophical understanding of life. And sometimes when we're doing the ritual, we may not feel that love. But something that I've seen in my life is that if you have faith in it and you believe it, I love you, whether you know it on your mental platform or not. The soul is not on the mental platform. In life, we're all on the mental platform, the bodily platform, the ego, the id. But the soul is something very hidden. The soul is called the dreamer, the witness. It's something very deep, very hidden. If someone here can tell me you've realized your soul, you know your soul, the form of your soul, the name of your soul, it's very deep. So with faith, our belief is that I love you. That's our reality. God and the soul are inseparable. They are eternal twin flames. They cannot be divided. And so at the basis of reality is the fact that I love you and that you love me. And therefore, the reason we're chanting the names of God is to help awaken that love. Lord Chaitanya came and he said, "Oh Lord, without love for you, my life passes meaninglessly like a beggar. I'm wandering in the streets of this world like a beggar. Oh Lord, please give me the wealth of divine love. For that I offer myself unto you." So this is our philosophy. One thing I want to touch upon is specifically the love of Radha-Krishna and why they appeared in the form of Chaitanya, who was a monk. His whole life, he never had children. And I feel like it's to emphasize the purity of this love as something truly divine and transcendental. It's that because when Krishna came with Radha, many people criticized them. Krishna, one of his most famous leelas or pastimes is the rasa dance. And in the rasa dance, he was not only dancing with Radha, he was dancing with millions and millions of gopis. That means the cowherd damsels. And from the philosophical point of view of the scriptures and all the realized sages, they are all expansions of the same Radha. And so in reality, it is only God with the soul. It is only God. Now, Radha is not the soul, like a soul like us, you could say. She is the supreme. God is the supreme soul. She is the supreme goddess. But in the tradition of the Gita and other scriptures, the idea is that there is only the soul in God. And if God is meeting with the soul, there is nothing more pure than that. This idea that love is impure is a contaminated understanding, a perverted understanding of love, based on the perversions and the darkness and the evil that is beset upon us in this life, in the world. There is something that is pure, and then there is light and there is darkness. There is this, you could say, the duality of the material extremes. But when the soul is meeting with God, that is the most pure thing possible. And when the soul is meeting with God, then that soul will appear in a form to express its love in different frequencies. If you can think of it as frequencies, like colors. Like chakras, you see each chakra has a different color. So if you think of the frequencies of love, when you come into that heart chakra, it has a certain color. When you come into different love, appears in many forms. If you look at the Greek philosophers, they talk about the different forms of love. Filial love. In New York, from New York we go for a couple hours and we go to Philadelphia, city of brotherly love. There's many kinds of love. Platonic love in many forms. But when, in our philosophy, the original form of love, the original source of love is called the romantic love. And romantic love not in an erotic way, but in this way where you cannot tolerate being separated from love each other. It's the most powerful form of love. Like you can see in this world, you may have very close friends, and you'll spend some time together, but you can tolerate being separate from them for a few days, or for a week, or for a month. But if you have a very powerful form of love between lover and beloved, separation is almost intolerable, even in this material plane of existence. And it's also very important to remember, our teachers would say that divine love and material love are of a different category of intensity and the being. So, like in Islamic culture, we say ishq, and it's love, but it sometimes is seen as like what we call Romeo and Juliet love. Like there's a Hindi version of it, Laila Majnu. That's like the Romeo and Juliet of India, Laila Majnu. So if you look at their love, it was very innocent, it was very pure, but they would rather die than be separated. So that's why we say the original principle of the most concentrated form of love is that love that cannot tolerate separation from itself, where it sees the beloved as non-different from the self. And we believe in our tradition again that at the highest intensity of that love, the lover and beloved will forget their separate existence and become as one. Because the consciousness becomes so absorbed in the object of love and devotion that the thoughts of yourself completely subside. And then it becomes selfless, pure love, what is called Prema or Bhakti. Bhakti means causeless, unconditional, spontaneous, unmotivated attraction or devotion. So this is represented in the love of Radha and Krishna. And we see this especially in the love for Radha, where even when Krishna left to go out into the world and do his duties, she didn't then pick up herself and go and do her job and career. Krishna went on his career. He went out in the world, killed the demons, became the greatest philosopher, the greatest warrior, the greatest prince. But she was so dedicated to love and to him, she did nothing but. It's said that there's a place in Vrindavan called Udhav Keri, and her maids, they would make a bed of rose petals, and she would lay on it, but the heat of her separation from her beloved was so great that in a moment the fresh rose petals would become like crisp, potpourri. They would become crisp and then powder. And then again they would make a bed of rose petals or a bed of lotus petals. So this is her state. And in that mood she is thinking, who first told me the name of this Krishna? Why did I hear his name? It'd be better if I never heard. This is the ancient philosophical argument. Is it better to have loved and lost or to never have loved at all? But in that intensity of separation, she's thinking it would have been better to never hear his name. Who first told me that name? Sham. Keva Sunailo Shamanam. I don't know how much sweetness is in that name. Love invests the name with sweetness. Otherwise, the name is just the name. But by love, the name is infused with sweetness. And so in their combined form as Lord Chaitanya, he would say, "O Lord, all of your names are infused with the sweetness of the love of Sri Radha for you." And so when we are chanting your names, we chant Hare Krishna. It's the name of Radha with all her expansions. We don't chant Radhe Krishna, we chant Hare Krishna. Hare is the name for Radha, and it includes all her expansions. That means all the gopis. She's chanting Hare Krishna, praying to Krishna. So our aspirations, so Lord Chaitanya came and taught this, and it's very beautiful. It's a very sweet tradition. We'll speak more about it in the next days. Whenever, I don't know what programs we have. I'm just here in service. But a few programs would be nice, because these kinds of things should be relished. When you eat like a nice preparation, you don't want to just gobble it down. Like your favorite food, like ice cream or best flavor of whatever. You take a spoon, you savor it, you take another spoon. So this is the kind of philosophy that it takes time to offer your mind into the absorption of the philosophy to come to the state of acceptance. And I want to speak about this for a moment. Have we done the offering yet?
No, keep going.
See, this is...
15 minutes more.
No. I only have prepared it 20 minutes, because otherwise you'll get swept in the current. So, anyhow. This is something I think is very important to understand. So we say there's different moods of love. And in the spiritual dimension, the relationships with God appear in different forms according to the moods of the soul to God. According to the mood of the soul in relationship with God, then the soul will take on a form corresponding with how it will relate with God in that perfection of their love. So don't think of form as something that comes first. What I'm trying to say is that the essence of the soul's love is the specific mood of love that you possess. And according to that mood, form will manifest. And so we are cultivating our mood and trying to realize our mood. And when we are doing our ritual, we're trying to offer our mood of devotion through the medium of whatever article we're using, be it a flower, be it a lamp, be it incense, water. We're trying to offer our mood of love with that article, and then that becomes what we call a arati or a archana, worship. So the special gift of Lord Chaitanya, who is when Radha-Krishna, so now the philosophy is that when Radha-Krishna are in the most intense height of that experience of lover and beloved, where the consciousness merges in the oneness of divine love, where they forget their separate existence, then at that time it's said that Cupid, or what we call Ananga, which literally means the formless personification of love. Why is it called formless? Because it's present in every atom. This is in the Gita. In material life, in the darkness of material life, it manifests in its shadow form as lust. But in its perfect state, it's pure love. So, in the height of Radha-Krishna's experience of that oneness of divine love, then Cupid makes a painting. And this actually is it's a very beautiful metaphor. It's one of the most beautiful metaphors in our tradition. So to unpack it, it's actually told by the goddess Vrinda to Krishna. So one day Krishna was sitting, and the goddess Vrinda, who is also the goddess of devotion, she came and met with Krishna and said, "This morning I saw something very beautiful. I saw that Cupid was making a painting in a beautiful temple. And the paint was that reddish, when the heart of yourself and your beloved became molten and melted in ecstasy, then that love became this reddish, pinkish color called kumkum or anurag or parag, like shellac. Like if you get, to give you something you can really easily understand, like the kings of old, they would have letters and they would put a wax seal, and it would be red wax. Now you see the image? So this is called shellac. So Vrinda, the goddess, is telling Krishna that I saw Cupid this morning making a painting, and the paint was the melted reddish paint from the combination of your hearts, when your hearts melted in the oneness of your ecstasy of your meeting. And he took that paint and he's painting a beautiful painting, and he said the temple is the walls of the universe. This is how it's described. And from that, all the beauty and all existence is manifesting. And so Vrinda is saying this to Krishna. Krishna's thinking, very nice. So this is the mood behind the appearance of Lord Chaitanya. Krishna's thinking, if that is the case, then what is the nature of that love that she possesses for me, as we heard from Gokul Prabhu? Krishna, or God in the masculine form, is described to be the object of the love of every soul. Every soul in existence, the Supreme Soul is the object of your essential love. So we talked about this last night to recap. If beyond time in the material world, the soul exists, which is what we believe, that the soul exists beyond material time. The soul is eternal and the forms of this material world come and go. So if the soul exists eternally and God exists eternally and love exists eternally, then the original love is between the soul and God. And all other forms of love in this world are reflections of that. Like you see the sun reflecting in a mirror, the sun reflecting in a pool, the sun, even in darkness, even in the absence of light, there's an indication of light. So everything in existence, separate from that original love between the soul of God, is almost like an indication of that original source of love. And so we say the love between boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife, friends, and parents and children, that's all coming from the source of the different moods of love between the soul and God. The different frequencies of love between the soul and God, the different expressions of love between the soul and God. Sometimes the soul and God are experiencing the love of a parent and a child. And that is reflected in this world between the love of parents and children. Sometimes the soul is experiencing love of God as a friend, and that is reflected in the world between, you see like friendships between children, it's very thick, like thick as thieves. They'll do everything together. And if you try to separate them, it's like you're breaking their life apart. Especially like kids, and you have to move somewhere. So all that love, the original form of that is the love between the soul and God, because they're inseparable. They exist beyond time, before time. Krishna says in the Gita, you can move it this side. No problem, it's fine. She'll move it. You can move the camera over here? Okay, no problem. Just move it over here, it's fine. Okay, Haribo, good. Jayo. Okay? All right? I've never spoken about this. I don't like to talk about the same thing twice. So I just like go deeper and deeper. So I'm navigating the description of this. So thank you for your patience. So I want to get to the point of understanding in our tradition why we believe that the soul can take on a form according to the mood where it can be like a handmaid to Sri Radha and experience the relishment of her love for Krishna as Krishna himself wanted to experience her love. So each soul has the capacity to experience a relationship of love with God. But no soul can experience the height, the intensity of the love for God that the Supreme Soul as Radha experience. Because we're soul to God, but we don't say Radha is the soul. She is inseparable from God. God has two halves, Radha and Krishna, feminine and masculine. And the original love is between them. That's the Adi Ras. And so that the soul, if it can develop the mood of bhakti in our tradition, which is the gift of Lord Chaitanya, then that when you come into that frequency in the heart, which is the mood, and you cultivate that mood, in due course that mood will manifest into form. And that form will reveal itself in the heart, and as you water and cultivate that seed of that mood, in due course that mood will manifest in form in God's own dimension, which is the place where you can express and experience that love in its perfected form without any of the limitations of the material world. Because the material world is naturally very limiting. Maya means that which is limiting. You're trying to measure it and you're limited by it. But the state of God beyond material life, beyond time, beyond karma, even beyond liberation, that is that state of original love. So we are aspiring to experience our love for God in its perfect form, and we take shelter of the name. But Lord Chaitanya is that incarnation of Radha-Krishna combined. When Krishna heard Cupid is making this painting and decorating the walls of the universe with the molten shellac, reddish love of Radha for Krishna, he himself began to think, what is the nature of that love? Because I'm in the masculine role observing her love for me, but I'm not tasting it. Does it make sense? Because from the masculine and feminine, they're distinct. There's a different energy. So he wanted to experience what her feeling was like when she met with him, when she experienced his sweetness. He's hearing her say, who first said my name? Who first? When Krishna left Vrindavan, he would tell her that actually I never left. I left only externally. Spiritually, I was always with you. So in his spiritual real heart and mood, he's seeing how he's out there in the world, he's speaking the Bhagavad Gita, he's not falling on the ground in separation from Radha. Her love is more intense. He's out there giving great instructions, he's out there in the battlefield, and he has, everywhere God goes, everyone loves him. So Krishna has so many who love him, but she only loves him. So when Krishna goes out in the world, he meets with Arjuna, love Uddhava, Vidura Rani, so many examples are there, and he's out there. But he's still feeling love for Vrindavan especially, but the thing that pains him the most is the condition of his Radha. That she is so overpowered by the intensity of her love for him in separation that she never left that place. Krishna left for 100 years. This is the actual, I'm giving you the philosophical, scriptural tradition. Krishna left for 100 years. The place where Krishna left Vrindavan, Radha was there, she never left that place. They tried to stop him, they tried to stop the chariot. He was sitting on the chariot with the cruel messenger. And ironically, his name was Akrura, which means non-cruel. And the gopis would say, what is the irony of fate? That the person whose name is non-cruel is the most cruel in existence because he has kidnapped our Krishna. So that place where they tried by force to stop the chariot, all the gopis laid their bodies in front of the chariot. And they said, no problem, you can go. We cannot stop your will, Lord. But if you want to go, you'll have to trample over us. And so Mahaprabhu, when Krishna came as Mahaprabhu, he would say, Ashlishavapadatang pinastumam adarshanang marmahatang kurotuva yata tata vividhatu lampato matprananatastu sa eva napara. So Krishna, seeing this mood of Radha and the gopis, he said, I'll come and I'll beg her mood from her. That's called bhav. So when we glorify Lord Chaitanya, the scripture says, Radha bhava duty. Krishna took her mood, granted by her. She gave her mood, like we heard from Gokul, Sham Krishna. Again, if you look at Radha Krishna, you can see like yin and yang. You can see the duality of everything. Krishna is darkish, she is golden. But as Chaitanya, he bathed in the complexion of Radha, like we heard. He bathed in her concentrated love, in that molten love of gold, and he emerged as Chaitanya. So that golden Gauranga, when he came to this world, in his final verse of his instructions, he would say, Ashlishavapadatang pinastumam. This is the highest pinnacle of the mood of surrender. We say in Bhakti, surrender is the door and surrender is the altar. So on the altar of surrender, the gopis have the mood where they express, O Lord, I have given myself to you, I am yours. I cannot take my heart back. It is yours. If I could, maybe I would, but I don't know how. Even when I try to forget your name, I'm remembering your name. Even when I'm mad at you, I'm thinking about you. And so, I am yours causelessly. Whether you embrace me or trample me, I am yours. So Lord Chaitanya is perhaps sometimes thinking, I haven't read this, so this is all, I'm mostly speculation. So, Ashlishavapadara pinastumam, ardarshanam marma hatang karotuva, yata tata vidadhatu lampato, you are a debauchee, Lord. Whether you trample me or embrace me, still I am yours. Lampat means, the gopis call Krishna Lampat means, he is unregulated. God is for all souls. God, no one can, he's completely free and independent. So they say, you are free and independent, you can leave us, you can do as you like, but yet, I am yours. So we've been talking about English mantras. So you would say this is like a universal mantra in many languages, but the idea of I love you, and yesterday we said love is a 4-letter word, and I and you, one letter, I, God. You, 3, Y-O-U. Both are together within love. 1, 2, 3, 4, love. And so God is love, love is God, and the I and you is together within that love. The soul and God are together within that love. They cannot be divided or separated. If you were to try to say, we will separate the soul from God, it's not possible. That's the real essential subatomic particle. We say within every atom, the soul and God are present. How can you separate them? They are heat and light from the fire. So if you take a flame, if you light a flame, the heat of the flame and the light of the flame cannot be extracted from the flame. You can capture heat and you can try to capture light, but if you light a fire, there will be heat and light. So wherever God is present, the soul and their love for God is present. In this world, heat and light become separated in many particles, and we become away from that original fire of the energy or the source of God. But our process is to come back to that. So Lord Chaitanya is intoxicated in the moods of now the lover for the beloved and relishing this continuously. He locked himself in a room for 18 years to relish these moods. This is, if you look at Lord Chaitanya's life, he lived for 48 years. And for 18 of those years, he locked himself in a room. How big was the room? He couldn't lay down and fully extend his body in that room. He was 7 feet tall, but the room was like 6 feet long. Why? Radharani and Uddhav Kari never left that place. When Krishna left Vrindavan, Radharani, she never left. And her manjaris, the maidservants, they would make a petal of rose flowers, another flower, and they would constantly be smearing sandal paste. They would constantly be giving camphor, constantly be trying to cool the heat of her separation. And she would be, we don't have time for this, and next time. But trying to really take shelter of her, he would stay in that room. And he would only go sometimes to hear from Gadadhar Pandit speak the Bhagavatam. There's many stories here. We won't enter into that. But look at his focus. He wanted to relish that, understand it, and then he also wanted to glorify her. So this is the other half of the Gaur Lila. Gaur Lila is not just, are they eating? Where's the offering? Okay. Oh, there. Okay, good. So, Krishna as Chaitanya, there's two parts of his Lila, his pastime. One is that he is relishing this. God himself taking the moods of his beloved or lover, and then lover and beloved switch roles. Sometimes lover is beloved, sometimes beloved is lover. In the Maha Mantra, what we chant, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, the first half of the mantra is lover and beloved. The second half is beloved and lover. The roles reverse. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Raghunath Das Goswami writes this. If you want to, see, everyone's chanting this mantra, but if they don't understand the meaning of it, and we don't want to be imitationists, we don't want to speculate, we don't want to be overly sentimental, we should regulate our lives, but we should also understand our tradition. We have that much right to understand our tradition. So if you look at all the commentaries of the meaning of the Maha Mantra which we chant, the great saints describe this. So the second half of the Maha Mantra, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, it's described by Raghunath Das that the original chanter of this mantra is Radha. And Hare Ram, she's describing how their roles reverse in the intensity of their love, called Prem Vivarta. And that's when Kamdev, or the Cupid, will take that molten shellac reddish color of their love and use it as paint to decorate the universe. So that now God, the beloved, has become the lover, and he is worshipping her, and their moods and their roles have reversed, and he's absorbing himself more and more and going deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper into this. But on the other side, he has his internal reasons. He wants to distribute this and glorify her. This ties back to the rasa dance. At the end of the rasa dance, when he disappeared, he came back. Again, this is the kind of thing that you could talk about for a long time, so now just summarizing. When he came back from the rasa dance after disappearing, he sat down and the gopis began to ask him questions about the nature of love. They said, what kind of beloved are you who rejects those who've come and offered themselves to you? We have offered ourselves to you. We know it's your desire. They say for there to be prem, or divine love, there has to be the mutual desire of lover and beloved. There is no prem without lover and beloved, and without attraction, called rati. So, hearing the gopis talk to Krishna about what kind of love do you have, he basically tried to explain, like, look, I am God, and I'm beyond these categories you're giving me. That was his escape route. Sometimes people say, like, if you don't know the answer, you get out of the whole equation. So he would say, I'm not in any of these categories, I'm God. But he was still thinking about it. And so his only response was first, like, I'm none of those categories. And there's a whole beautiful description of this. But afterwards, he glorifies them. And he says that your love is the most pure thing in existence. So sadhu krityam. Sadhu means a saintly person, but what sadhu really means is the most pure thing. Something very pure. And so Krishna tells Radha and the gopis, so sadhu krityam. You are the most pure. You are the most glorious. You are the most sadhu. Like if something is very sweet, then at the end you'll say sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Very nice, and you'll clap. So Krishna told the gopis, sadhu, 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 you win. I am defeated. You win. So he glorified them like that, and he thought in his mind, I want to glorify them in this world, because I know after I leave this earth, many people will criticize the gopis. If you go and look into Hinduism, different religions, they love to criticize Krishna and the gopis, especially the Abrahamic traditions. You know, and when I meet the more mystical parts of these traditions, and you look into it and you talk with the scholars of it, you're like, look, that's what you're talking about it. That's what you're talking about it. For example, if you look at the Judaic tradition, they talk about like the flame, the heat, lover and beloved, God and the soul, in very similar ways. If you look at Islamic traditions, you talk about ishq, it's very similar. The Sufi tradition, the mystic love for God, it's very similar. You look at Christianity, the Song of Songs, Song of Solomon, and the idea of the brides of Christ who become nuns. It's all there. It's all there. But then they say, oh, Krishna and the gopis, Krishna is a debauchee, Krishna is this, Krishna is that. And so to reconcile this and to glorify her, he said, I'll come to this world and I'll spread your glories throughout this world. And not only that, but I will find those souls who have that mood in their heart and their essential nature, the mood of their soul, the frequency of their heart. Like if you think of each soul has its essential note in a melody, in a symphony of love to God. And so our process, we're trying to realize and uncover through our purification process, through the seasons of spiritual life, what is the note of my soul? What is the melody of my soul? What is the melody means? Your youth, your group, where you have perfect harmony in the melody. So that, what note am I? So Lord Krishna said, I will come as Chaitanya and I will preach this throughout the world and I will find those who I can offer you into your service, O Radhe. I will find those souls who have that in their nature, that potentiality. That potentiality means without some intrinsic quality, potential cannot manifest. Potential is not created. The soul is not created. The soul is eternal. God is eternal. That's the basic 101 teaching of Gita. The soul is eternal. God is eternal. Before material, it's the essential basic 101 of the Gita. It's the basis. So if that is eternal, then the soul is not impersonal. The soul is essentially personal. Its form, its mood, it's all hidden in a very secret potentiality way. Like if you were to take a seed. Oh, Gokul, you know, these flowers are very beautiful. Can you give me a champak flower seed? That champak flower will not take birth when it's planted in water into a lotus or a rose. Flower of a plumeria will become a plumeria. A seed of plumeria will become a plumeria. So each soul is like a seed. And within that seed, there's a potentiality. And that potentiality is in the form of a mood. And so Krishna said, you know, this pastime of Chaitanya and Radha-Krishna is also eternally going on. So he's eternally coming, but it's very rare. After billions and billions of years, he comes as Chaitanya. How old is the earth? When was the last time Lord Chaitanya came? Again, I like to make these things practical and logical. Anarpitam chirim chirat. He has not come for so long. He has not come. We say it. The earth is at least 13 billion years old. The universe is, the scientists say at least 13 billion. At least. So this is the first time in at least 13 billion years where the opportunity was there for the souls with that potential in their mood, in their essence, to appear in the perfected form as that beautiful associate of Sri Radha, to relish their mutual love. First time in 13 billion years, at least. In reality, it's longer than that. But from a scientific point of view, at least 13 billion years, and their souls are all throughout the universe. So there's not souls that have that potentiality. There's souls with the potentiality to experience God in any form that God is. You know, we don't deny different religions, that Christianity is wrong and Buddhism is wrong and Islam is wrong. There's different souls, different potentialities, different ways to relate with God. But there are definitely those souls out there in the universe that have that in their nature, that potentiality to be in that form of always experiencing and being present with the divine couple. And this is like a springboard to a future conversation. But Lord Chaitanya said, I will go and I will collect those flowers and offer them at your feet. I will collect and find those flowers and offer them at your feet. Our Gurudev, he had that special task. He would travel the world and he would say, I'm going to do many functions. I'm going to help the disciples, Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, by his instruction. I'm going to establish the principles of dharma. I'm going to do many things. But he said, my internal task, I'm going to look for those flowers who I can offer to Radha-Krishna, who will eternally be in the union of their love, serving the union of their love, not separate from them. And then we think, oh, but I don't want to be a maid servant. I don't want to be a handmaiden. But if Radha-Krishna are losing their own separateness of I am lover, you are beloved, I am beloved, you are lover, if you can perfect the mood of that desire to serve and relish their love, then that mood in its perfected form will manifest into form. Right? The soul, we are cultivating that mood and aspiring that when will that mood manifest into form? Yes. At the perfection of the mood, that is Swarup Siddhi. And that is why the highest stage of the human experience is bhav, the perfection of the mood. You cannot go beyond that. In the human experience, the perfection, the highest stage, the pinnacle of the human experience, which is the closest we can get to God in material existence, is the perfection of your mood. When that mood is perfected, at that stage, then we say, again, you do not take birth in material existence. Then that soul achieves Prema and its form and everything corresponding to that. Sachinandan Gaur Hari Ki, Gaur Premanandi Hari Hari Bo, Vanchakalpatri Visikibasandi.